This episode of In Charge for the Miss GoElectric Industry Channel takes me to the IONNA Charging Network headquarters in Durham, North Carolina. In this episode, we'll introduce you to the company and their plan, glean insights from partners and leadership, and visit an IONNA location to share an example of the experience they are building. As we've reported in our 10-minute weekly EV news show, The Current, IONNA is a joint venture between 8 automakers. Together, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, General Motors, Kia, Hyundai, Stellantis, Toyota, and Honda have committed more than $2 billion towards the goal of activating 30,000 new DC fast charging bays in the U.S. by 2030. IONNA invited a small group of media for their first media day. We had unrestricted access to the offices and testing facilities where over 100 employees handle the business of installing and maintaining our country's second fastest growing DC fast charging network. This is the CEO Seth Cutler. Educated as a mechanical engineer, he leads with decades of experience in EV charging infrastructure with General Electric, Electrify America, and EV Connect. He opened the presentation explaining IONNA's mission to raise the bar for user experience with amenities, while reaching for the reliability and ease of use, which has made the Tesla Supercharger network. At the time of publishing this video, IONNA has activated about 50 locations. This is Chief Technology and Product Officer Riccardo Stamati talking about the 3 types of stations. Relays are simple locations with minimal integrated extras, and their plan is for less than 40% of the total network locations to be this type. The other 60% will be made of rechargeries with some amenities and full-featured beacons like the one which opened in Winchester, California in early December of 2025. SVP of Strategic Partnerships, Aaron Wolf, talked about the decision for IONNA to buy real estate for many sites, which can sometimes expedite the rollout, how they improve the scope of amenities for users, and expand revenue opportunities. He also spoke about partnerships with site hosts like Sheetz, who already host well over 100 DC fast charging locations with other networks. The team talked a lot about their success establishing reliable interoperability with not only the 8 automaker partners, but all other EVs, including Ford and Rivian, with plug-and charge compatibility. They said they have focused on app integration with car makers and third parties and have no immediate plans to develop an app of their own. Their network is designed to be easy to use for drivers with or without a smartphone. I wanted to know more about the path to profitability. It is capital intensive, and I know you have a big backing of 8 different automakers, but it's still a business. So how do you see profitability in the long run so that this stays healthy and can remain?
We are very intentional about delivering in terms of where we invest dollars and do it efficiently to try to maximize on how many sites we can build, delivering the right quality experience with as small investment as possible from what's in our core business, from the basic headquarters, I think. But right, so we're really investing in the sites versus trying to invest in other things right now.
Next, we joined representatives from 7 of the 8 automakers inside the IONNA testing garage. They expressed their satisfaction with the network growth so far and identified their expectation that IONNA can one day become the leading fast charging network in the US and be profitable. Mercedes and GM are both rolling out self-branded DC fast charging networks in the US separately from IONNA. I asked them to elaborate on those motives.
First of all, we do this not only in the US, but specifically for the US, we really foresee a high need, a bigger need than in Europe for charging and for high quality charging. This was really for us a reason to even do a 2-train strategy, so to say. We are proud on this. On an own network, of course, you have even a higher influence, which is not saying that this is not a good joint venture, but things like reservation function, for example, is an easier one to put it in your own network because you have full influence in the full stream, so to say. This was a reason for us to really have both. So first of all, the need. Second, of course, the quality. And when it comes to the driver experiences, because there we have really the target to be best in class. we have a differentiation.
I think there's an opportunity to make multiple bets. Like we see an opportunity to, diversify with IONNA and what we've already invested with our other partners, but we do see the benefit of working together because it is an industry challenge. Yes, we are going to solve a part of the challenge with our own network, but we absolutely see the ability to scale when we work together collectively.
We also heard from our friend Tom Bowen, president of EV Connect Commercial and Q Merit, alongside representatives from hardware supplier Alpatronic and site partner Sheets, who also shared their experiences moving quickly with IONNA. After having gathered a great deal of context, we were grateful for the opportunity to talk with CEO Seth Cutler for an extended interview. The man in charge over here at IONNA. Now, we talk about on the weekly news show, The Current, IONNA all the time. You guys are constantly in the headlines, which is impressive because you've only been around for such a brief time.
22 months, yeah.
22 months. So for those of you who aren't familiar and didn't watch The Current the week we were talking about them, can you kind of give an overlay of what IONNA is and the goals you have set forth for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a strategic joint venture of 8 automakers, really to redefine public charging in North America. So we've been a company for 22 months. We started February of last year, and we've been on a tear to go really redefine charging. So trying to build out a national network in record speed to think differently about how charging should be for customers.
And a lot of things are different. The speed is definitely one that catches all of our eyes. So can you talk about how you're able to achieve these fast installations of so many chargers? Because by 2030, 30,000, that's a lot.
It is a lot. And we have an ambitious goal of 30,000 by end of the decade. We've got over 4,000 bays. Of that 30,000 already contracted across the United States. 3,000 of those are in permitting, and there's 1,200 or more that are in construction or beyond. So we've been moving at a record pace. As you can imagine, when we first started the company last February, we weren't just launching a product, we're actually launching a whole organization. So we've been trying to do both at the same time. Now we've got the full company hired and running, which only means that we can pick up and go faster as we get into 2026 and beyond now.
Now, I'm sure you're making a lot of decisions, but you have 8 other automakers to kind of contend with as far as making decisions. So can you talk a little bit about that dynamic and how you kind of take the reins on making decisions to deploy this network?
Yeah, look, I think you saw it. I think you see it with our automakers, partners. It's a really great partnership and a collaboration between us and the OEMs. I report into a board of 8 OEMs. And really, it's a great dialogue, right? There's a lot of push and pull. They're trying to make us go faster in terms of how do we really build out scale at record pace and deliver the right charging quality. We're trying to push on them to say, hey, how do we really strengthen and quicken the integration between us and 8 of you? But as you can tell, I think there was a lot of doubt in the market of, hey, can 8 automakers come together and do this with all these people trying to make decisions? And the answer is yes, we've proven it. And I think a lot of it is not just the OEMs in terms of how we've built that collaboration, but the team that we've hired. We've hired, honestly, the best of the best in the industry and have built a great culture in terms of people that are mission-driven, purpose-driven to develop something different in the marketplace. And you see it every day with the folks coming to this office wanting to do right by customers.
And can you talk about your personal previous experience? What does that provide you insight to be able to run a company like this?
Yeah, sure. So one, I've been in e-mobility going on 15 years now. I was with GE early on in my career, running their charging business at the end of that time. I was at Electrify America, EV Connect with Schneider. I also ran a small business for a couple of years. And I think, all of that kind of gave me a different viewpoint in terms of not just e-mobility, but also in terms of how do you build a company to be successful culturally and really in terms of driving to a laser focus, intentional, deliberate, action-oriented organization. And so, one person, myself, definitively cannot have done what we have done. I'm a very small part of a very large organization, which is the 85 to 100 people we have today. It's them that makes it happen. My job is to really set a strategic vision. It's to really build out the culture and to help the team support them develop the products for our customers.
Now, do you currently drive an EV?
I have 2 EVs, actually. I have a Tesla. My wife has a Tesla, and I have a BMW i4.
So can you speak to your experience of driving an EV and what decisions you make with this company because of that experience? Because that's also very important, not only your professional experience, but your real world, yeah.
No, 1,000%. We've had EVs for years now, and especially with our Tesla, we've driven across the country multiple times and in different parts of the country, living in different states. We actually just went to Thanksgiving with our 2 small kids, with our Model Y. And there was a lot of queuing, right? There was a lot of trying to find a charger. There was a lot of back of parking lots, no lighting. So, when we talk about our decisions, both at the macro, where do we want to put them, which states, the micro, which types of sites, and then down to what we call the nano, which is what are the actual attributes at the sites that matter? Trash cans matter. And I think, it gets lost on people where it's not just about charging. It's about when you get there, what am I going to do? Am I going to feel safe? Am I going to feel like it's a place I want to be? That goes into the ethos and the DNA of what we're trying to build and the organization that's here trying to deliver that value to customers.
So now I kind of want to get into some of those nano decisions because we have right behind us the Alpatronic charging equipment. So can you talk about the decision to go with this company? And I have been looking around in this facility because in the back here, I have noticed that there are some cabinets that have a different logo on them. So can you talk about the decision of choosing Alpatronic and the future of your decision to maybe adopt a different technology?
Yeah, look, I think just like our automakers are important as partners, our vendors are important as partners as well from a collaboration standpoint to ensure that we're delivering the right experience. And so we did a lot of evaluation early on, very quickly to say, hey, who is the right charging hardware partner to deliver the right solution to our customers? Alpatronic for sure was the right partner based upon our testing, based on their experience in Europe and everything we saw in our evaluation. It doesn't mean that we're not constantly evaluating the market and challenging each other, including our vendors, to make sure that what matters most is are our customers getting what they need. And so you'll continue to see us to challenge the market, challenge ourselves and our vendors to get there.
And I think one of the questions that I asked earlier was, the path to profitability. And some of these other companies offer more parts of the installation process that could potentially bring costs down for you. So how much does that weigh on you in making those decisions as well? If they can, provide the grid connection and all the other equipment, the cabinets and the charging equipment versus what Alpatronic offers.
Yeah, look, this year was all around scale, speed to scale, right? Next year is going to be starting to look at how to optimize some of our costs. So I'm really impressed and pleasantly surprised at where we are right now from a dollars per stall standpoint, or dollars per base standpoint on our installation. I know we have room to take more cost out without ever compromising on the customer experience. And you do that by looking at what do you insource? What are the right partners? Are there more innovative ways to deploy assets? Is there stuff that you do prefab or stuff that you can do offsite? So we've got a lot of things in the pipeline to continue to drive cost out, but I'm really happy where we are as an organization. And because, again, you look at the stuff that we've deployed, we're not just deploying sites in parking lots with existing amenities, we're also buying land and building amenities. And we've done that almost at scale now in dozens of sites at a price point that makes sense.
And I think that offers a lot of flexibility for you to then leverage those spaces for different things. So in the future, you can come up with other ways to, monetize based on that. Another question that I have is specifically with the partners that you have decided to go with. So can you kind of touch on what are those main qualities that you're looking for when you're deciding to partner, say, with, Sheets that you had today?
Yeah, so we have this concept of IONNA speed, right? And it's this relentless focus, this bias towards action and determination to make decisions as fast as possible that benefit drivers. And what we see is that when we work with partners and vendors, they also start to adopt that ethos. It's actually pretty funny. We'll be on calls with partners and vendors. They'll start using that same terminology about we got to move at IONNA speed. And so to me, what that says is, hey, one, we've got the right mentality, but we also have the right partners who are adopting our way of thinking, our culture, where they want to also add benefit to drivers. And so that's how we think about our partners in that way, whether it's Sheets from a retail perspective, whether it's Alpatronic or others, is that they're on the same mission we are, which is how do we benefit drivers to make charging better?
Well, how about on the automotive perspective then? Is there an example that you can give that's like, all right, since we've been working with these automakers, these are some things that we have told them is required for their EVs to be optimized and better for our network and other networks and the customer experience?
No, for sure. I mean, look, we started with no plug-in charger on our network, towards the end of last year. Today, we've got 7 automakers with PNC on our network. We'll be 9 over the next 6 to 9 months on our network, which will cover almost every major make and model at that point. So, I think you started to see a lot of that integration and collaboration happening. This year has really been around launching what I call the skeletal structure of the network, which gives a platform for our automotive partners to say, okay, this is a network now that we can rely on. And what we've been teasing out is there's going to be some additional feature sets and programs that we'll be launching next year as we deepen our integration between the OEM partners and the network that we've been building this year.
I'm excited to hear more about that. But another thing that I was excited to hear in this most recent press release that you guys came out with, because my background is in EV education and working with automakers when they launch EVs to teach dealers or, customers about the product, is that you're going to be having more EV learning on site at your grand opening. So can you talk a little bit about the programming there and the learning curve for people getting into EVs?
Yeah, it's interesting. For whatever reason, maybe it's because it's part of our DNA of our founders and our investors, is that I believe that in the day, if IONNA doesn't help move more vehicles, sell more EVs in the market, that we have failed as a company. It means that we've not done what we needed to do to remove range anxiety and charging anxiety off the table as a reason not to adopt electric cars. And so we did announce in our last press release, and I appreciate you bringing it up because it hasn't gotten a lot of coverage, that our plan next year, starting in California, is that as we launch sites, we want to partner with the community and with local dealers to educate their customer base and the community folks around what charging is and what it's not. I think there's a lot of misnomers in the marketplace to help remove those barriers and myths that might exist in the marketplace today.
What do you think is the biggest hurdle for people when they come to a charging station that you're going to be able to teach them about?
Well, I think folks that have never charged a car before are probably intimidated, right? Like, what is this thing? How do I use it? Do these things even exist in the marketplace at scale? I'm going to get stranded. So being able to bring folks to a charger with an EV and say, hey, this is pretty simple. Why don't you try it out? And then also have the opportunity to actually test a car or get inside of a car and say, oh, this is a car I want to drive. I think all of a sudden you've removed the psychosis of, this isn't for me.
What's your main strategy as far as choosing the sites that you onboard quickest?
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that we do from a macro standpoint in terms of which states we want to be in. And the biggest thing is there demand from a vehicle standpoint right now, but not enough charging? And what we see is we've put chargers in all parts of the country, and we have surprising results on where there's utilizations. Charging sites in Wisconsin, Kansas, middle of the country that from day one have had amazing utilization that maybe would have surprised folks. But there's a lot of cars on the road today in different parts of the U.S. where there's not enough charging, or the charging that exists isn't reliable or dependable. And so we're definitely looking to see where there's a delta between cars on the road and charging. And then we also look at and work with our OEM partners to say, hey, where are you guys seeing sales? So we can make sure we're building chargers in conjunction with you all trying to sell to consumers who want to buy cars, but maybe can't, or even if they do, are going to have a friction-full environment because the charging isn't where it needs to be, and we need to bring IONNA there faster.
Obviously, you are in the DC fast charging space, but do you feel that there is ever an opportunity in the future to tap into maybe opportunities for charging that are maybe a 50 kilowatt instead of a 400? I know speed is the thing with you guys, but do you ever see a future of the network going in a direction that matches dwell time in a lot of different places across the country?
Look, for us, we're only going to be a high-powered charge network. I think there's opportunities in the marketplace for all types of solutions, including home charging and even L2 charging when you think about workplace and potentially destinations. But for us, developing a high-powered charging network that folks can depend on and rely on is really important. I think the other thing also is right now, when you think about where the market's at, you're going to start to see more vehicle adoption inside of major metropolitan areas. And it's really hard to do home charging when you're in a high-rise condo or you're in New York City or other locations. Being able to provide high-powered, basically charging hubs is a place where you can remove those barriers to market for folks to adopt EVs.
So we know a lot of people that initially got into EV leasing in particular are of maybe a higher income bracket, but many of those are about to come off of the lease. And so the prices are going to be a little bit more affordable for people that maybe it hasn't been accessible yet. They live in a multi-family dwelling or something along those lines. So how are you guys positioned to be able to accommodate that influx? Are you taking that into consideration with your site planning?
Yeah, 1,000%. The majority of our investments will be made inside of cities. Upwards of 70-80% will be inside of cities. We're looking to have a lesser investment on what we call the connecting corridors, particularly because the range has gotten that much better, speed has gotten that much better. You don't need to have chargers every 50 miles along a highway because you're not going to have that requirement. So we're really trying to invest the dollars into the cities where we know that A, folks can't buy cars today because they don't have charging, or B, folks are going to be in locations where home charging doesn't make sense, which dovetails with the secondary market of cars coming off lease. So we think that's a huge opportunity to really make sure that we continue to get the market moving, which, to our earlier point, if IONNA is successful, we think we can help expand the market in terms of electrification and EV adoption as a whole.
Well, I love to hear that, as I'm sure most of you know that. But thank you so much for spending some time with us, Seth. We really appreciate it, and best of luck.
Thanks.
There was still just enough daylight remaining for an unguided visit to the IONNA Rechargery in Apex, North Carolina, where I could top off my Hyundai Ioniq 5 rental car and have a look at the facilities. As expected, trash cans and window squeegees were readily available. There was also a pet waste station and even a tire inflator combined with a windshield wiper fluid dispenser. This site had a canopy that spanned across all the dispensers. I plugged in and tapped my credit card, and the session started as easily as any gas station would. Plug and charge also works when the vehicle is set up for it. At this stage of their rollout, every IONNA station includes these Alpatronic dispensers, which can deliver up to 400 kilowatts of peak DC fast charging speeds, or 200 kilowatts when split with another EV. There was a good mix of CCS connectors and NACS connectors at this site to accommodate both port types. Next, I made my way to the classic gas and service station building, which IONNA had repurposed as a guest hub. As you might expect, the branding was impeccable. There were vending machines in the lobby and spacious, clean restrooms available. Several small seating areas and a fancy coffee bar were also a part of the amenities. The high-speed Wi-Fi signal was strong, and they had 2 conference rooms which could be unlocked via a mobile device. This familiar MAME cabinet, loaded with classic titles including Frogger and Pac-Man, was set to free play. Outside, there was another container trailer that had more food options, but when we arrived, it was closed. By the time I was done touring the facility, it was time that I returned to the dispenser, where my rental pulled about 31 kilowatt hours in 32 minutes, at an average rate of about 60 kilowatts for $11.94. All right, well, we saw a lot today at IONNA, not only at their headquarters, but here at their Rechargery in Apex. I hope you guys learned something from this experience. I know I did. Have you charged at one of these stations before? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And not only that, but do you think they're on the right track? Well, until next time, drive, fly, ride. Go electric.